Well, good morning and welcome to Now You Know. And we have a guest that I'm sure most of you are probably aware of, and his name is George Smith. And we're in George's home filming this on a beautiful day right before Memorial Weekend. And I'm sitting here in this house and looking out at the lake and just a fabulous
See, I
place.
sit right here doing my writing, looking at the pond.
I can see where that might give you some inspiration.
Well, every wild critter, from foxes to turkeys to deer, walk right across there.
Oh my goodness.
Yesterday we had a bunch of ducks landed on the lawn, so
Oh my goodness.
it's quite a place.
So since you write a lot about wildlife and outdoors, there's inspiration right around your house. Before I get into this too far, I just want to mention that Katie Willett, due to some health reasons, was unable to make it
Yeah,
here
I'm just
today, and
sorry.
she really desperately wanted to come
I
this
love
morning.
talking with her.
Oh
I did.
yeah, she and Katie is absolutely full of stories, and,
Oh, I
and
bet.
if we had her on for an interview, we need about 5 shows too. So.
I think she could be a show every week.
Absolutely. But she wrote this book, and you're going to have to read it. I don't know a lot
yeah.
about it, but she wanted you to have not only one, but 2 copies of it, one for your personal use and one to put in your library.
Thank you, because I
So-
was going to say I would like to do that.
Here you are, folks, if you ever want to get a
And-
copy of this book. It's 2 birds in a
And
book.
probably later this
box.
week on my website,
Yeah.
I will have a review of it.
Oh, that's right. That's
and the
right.
website is georgesmithmaine.com.
Well, you know, George, when I was trying to get some information on you, I do try to do a little bit of research before I come on these
Oh.
shows, and
Oh,
just a little
no.
bit, just a little bit.
Oh, dear.
And I go up, I go looking under GeorgeSmith.com, not GeorgeSmithTheMaine.com,
Yeah.
but George Smith, and I get this furniture place. And I said, "Whoops,
Yeah,
we better
that's why
try
I
that
added
again."
Maine, yeah.
George Smith of Maine, and then
George Smith Maine, one word.
and you've been on that site. You've been doing a blog, right?
I do
for quite a
outdoor
while.
news blog
Yeah,
that I post on my website and the Bangor Daily website.
yeah,
And then for 28 years, I've written that weekly column for the KJ and the Sentinel.
that's right.
And some people will say, George, how did you come up with an idea every week for an editorial page column for 28 years? And I said, well, don't you read the newspaper? Something aggravates me every day. You know? Some days I could write 3 editorials, Chris, you know?
And your columns are varied. I mean, you know, you
Well-
have things on the environment and conservation, which is obviously a big interest of
What I
yours.
appreciate, they let me write about anything.
Yeah,
And I have some of my early columns, and they're embarrassing. I mean, I was a young guy who knew everything.
Yeah.
I would lecture people, and gradually I figured out I don't know everything, you know. In the last couple of years, especially since I was diagnosed with ALS, I focused about Maine stories.
yeah,
People like that a lot better than politics today.
yeah.
So most of my columns, like I just wrote one yesterday about what it takes to be a real Mainer. that was fun, you know. That'll be printed in a couple weeks. So I appreciate, even with my illness, I don't have much strength in my fingers. I use the Dragon software that you talk and it types your words, and then I can edit with 2 fingers. I'm really grateful that I can keep writing because I really enjoy that.
The technology these days is just amazing. And what did so I read something about there's some eye technology now where you look at it and
We have a laptop that I'm learning
yeah,
that I could write with my eyes.
yeah.
It's amazing. It
And
really is.
I had never heard of that before, but I said that is absolutely
Yeah,
amazing.
it's pretty astonishing. So I have that too.
So now you can type with a couple
2
fingers?
fingers,
Okay,
and then I use the Dragon when I'm writing columns.
okay.
But I have to edit it. It isn't perfect, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun.
Does the Sentinel ever edit anything? Oh, excuse me, you're in the KJ and the
Well,
Morning Sentinel, but
Very rarely.
yeah,
They do double check some of the facts, and which I appreciate. Ben Bragdon at the KJ does a great job. And but they rarely make changes to the column.
yeah. And,
Only if I get a fact wrong or something.
And the columns are so varied. As I said, you're
Yeah.
talking some on conservation issues, and you're talking some on political issues. And George and I had a conversation where we went on the air that we both of us share some politics in our background here. And I said we would not make this a political show, but I do want to kind of go back to your early years, and you started off. Matter of fact, weren't you Bill Cohen's chauffeur?
My first paid job was in his first campaign for Congress. I was Bill's driver and personal aide. So basically, I spent the whole campaign with Bill. And I probably should have written a book about that. It was pretty amazing. And then 2 years later, I managed Dave Emery's campaign for Congress. We were two 26-year-old young Republicans running against an incumbent Democrat. He thought we were a joke. He didn't even campaign. And I think we beat him by 860 votes out of 280,000. We had 3 recounts, one in Washington, D.C., and we won them all.
That's when you ran against Peter Kairos?
We ran against Peter Kairos.
And Peter, he was like a well-established...
But he didn't campaign because he didn't think we had any chance. So we get to D.C., not, two young Republicans, not much idea what to do. And Ed Muskie was this big, prominent Democrat senator. Ed did everything he could to help us. We had meetings in his private office. Now today, no prominent member of one party would ever help a young person in the other party. And I think that's sad, because some of Dave's best friends, even though he was a Republican, were Democratic members of Congress. And it's all changed.
Oh, it has all changed. I mean, Susan Collins is really kind of an anomaly these days because she still tries to be work in a bipartisan way, but it's a tough environment.
She's in a tough spot.
Yeah.
You almost can't please anybody these days,
Oh, no kidding. Now, Margaret Shea Smith was the one that, didn't I read somewhere that she
Yes,
inspired you to get it?
I was 16, and I won a 4-H trip to D.C. with 2 other people, 2 other kids. And Margaret Shea Smith spent 2 hours with us. Now, what senator would do that today with 3 kids? And she inspired me to get involved in politics. I came home and started a Young Republicans Club at the Winter Bicycle.
Yeah?
And I just went from there on, and it was a great career. I mean, as you and I were talking earlier, when I was active as a Republican, we were the conservation leaders. We created the Land for Maine's Future and all this. Today, it's just the opposite.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
Now, you played quite a role in creating Land for Maine's Future.
I did.
And
and other programs like the Maine Coast Heritage Trust efforts, and there's a lot of environmental. People were surprised. When I worked for the Sportsman's Alliance, I had all kinds of alliances with environmental groups. And we did a lot of good things.
Yeah, and you really have.
The Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund was my idea. They've now given over $20 million to outdoor recreation and wildlife conservation projects. I'm very proud of that.
Well, it looks as though the Land for Maine Futures program is going to, it kind of had a few years when not much happened.
Well, I actually just a few days ago emailed the governor. What I like about Janet is I send her an email, I hear back in an hour. I mean, she's very responsive. And she was looking for 30 million. I'm hoping she'll go up to 50.
Yeah.
Because that would give us 4 or 5 years instead of 3. But when you look around at the special places we protected, it's impressive.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Any particular major projects you've got in mind for Land for Maine Futures?
I don't, but all the years I was active, it was very competitive.
Yeah.
And usually you start with a local land trust or a state conservation group who brings a project in. And they've already raised a lot of money for it. So LMF would donate a portion of it, but not usually all of it.
Yeah.
And one thing I've been working on is most of our trails today are not accessible to handicapped people. Like Maine Coast Heritage Trust has 100 fabulous trails, but only one down in Cutler is accessible to people in a wheelchair. And so I talked to the director, Tim. He's working on it.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about remote places. I'm talking about places that are close to people. you know, with our senior citizens today, a lot of them are using canes or walkers, but we love to get out, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Face it, we're an aging population here in the state with more infirmities, and if you can do things that will get them out
Yes.
and not just sit in the car and look at things, that's a wonderful thing to be able to do
DB
that.
Trail.
Yeah.
DB Trail.
Oh, in Skowhegan. Yeah, actually, there's some handicapped aspects of
It's paved.
that.
There's a long trail that starts in Waterville that one of the directors is going to take me over someday. And he says it's all handicapped accessible,
Yeah.
which will be neat. Yeah.
I mean, you've been involved in conservation and land and trusts and various things over the years. And recently, you gave your land, it was woodlot, right?
Yes.
To the Kennebec Land Trust. And wasn't it named after your
My
father?
dad,
Yeah.
Ezra Smith.
Yeah.
Dad and I hunted there for many years. I hunted with Dad for 53 years.
Yeah.
It was pretty special. I just wrote a column about him for Father's Day. And so I bought that in 2 parcels. And, you know, none of our kids want a woodlot in Mount Vernon, so I started looking around. And I was very impressed with the Kennebec Land Trust because they do a lot for kids.
Yeah.
And so they've already got one trail with signs that teach the kids about the habitat they're looking at. So it's going to be great. I wrote a booklet of stories of wildlife I encountered on my woodlot.
Yeah.
And we got a grant from the Outdoor Heritage Fund to publish it, and the kids get it for free.
Oh, nice.
I'll tell you my favorite story. I was sitting on the ground, leaning up against a hemlock tree deer hunting, and I see an ermine going back and forth, about 50 yards out. And they're white at that time of year.
Yeah.
It got to 10 yards, it turned and ran up my leg and stopped right here on my chest. Now they have teeth. If it had bit me, I'd have died, you know. And I'm going, whoa. And at that point he decides I'm not the tree and he jumped off. That was one of my best stories. But the kids get that too, you know.
Yeah. You've been able to, because of your job or jobs, I guess, you've had an opportunity to travel all over the country and internationally
Yes.
to different fishing and hunting sites. I remember reading about a trip you took up to Quebec on the Leaf, was it the Leaf
That was
River?
Harry. Took me twice to do TV shows.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's the best place I've ever fished for brook trout. It's a sporting camp. They have 65 miles of river all to themselves.
Yeah.
And they only fish it 2 weeks a year, and then they start hunting caribou.
Oh, wow.
You could stand in one place and catch 50 big brook trout. And sometimes a big lake trout would come and grab your brook trout.
I saw that
It was
story. So
unbelievable.
you'd have this 2 or 3 pound brook trout on it,
Yeah.
and a lake trout would come up behind it and grab it.
A couple times I had brook trout on the line that jumped right out of the river to get away from a lake trout.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it's Arctic tundra kind of place. And Harry and I, the first time we went, we saw 10,000 caribou.
Oh.
I boated up and paddled one. swimming across the
10,000
bridge.
caribou.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
How far? This is obviously in the tundra. You're a long ways up
Yeah.
in Quebec.
It's a commercial flight north and then a full plane the rest of the way.
Okay.
So it takes something to get there, yeah.
When was the last time you went there?
Well, it's been quite a few years. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I told Linda I'd love to go back. I've been 3 times. But it's $7,800 for 5 days of fishing. And she said, George, you and I can go to Italy for 3 weeks. It's $7,800.
Yeah.
So Linda and I, we became birders about 15, 16 years ago. And I wish I'd started sooner because that adds a lot wherever you're going
Yeah.
to look at the birds. And we've even been to Costa Rica birding. But my favorite place is Greve in Italy. It's about a half hour below Florence.
Yeah.
And we stay in this little winery that has 3 apartments.
Okay.
And we have now sent over 60 people from Maine to stay there.
Oh, no kidding.
Some of them have been back 3 times since we sent them the first time. And everybody loves that place. So it's been fun to help people. And then, as you know, Linda and I wrote travel columns for 7 years every week for the KJ and Sentinel, and it was awesome to travel around Maine. And we have so many great inns and restaurants.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, I I read a number of those columns, and you got a chance to go around the state. I particularly remember some of the restaurant columns. And
Well, and we didn't focus on the famous ones in Portland. We looked in rural Maine.
yeah,
Lubeck is our favorite place because my mom grew up there.
yes,
My great-grandfather was a lighthouse keeper for 32 years, and we still go down there a lot.
you just wrote one, something, maybe it was on your blog, about one in Jonesboro. You're on the way up to Lubeck, and there was a restaurant there that you really liked.
We did, and just before that in Millbridge is a relatively new Mexican restaurant. And he started out in a food truck, serving migrant workers, and then he stayed and opened a restaurant. And we wrote a travel column for him. It's a fabulous place. It's all takeout. And when we got there, I sent him a couple copies of the column. We got there next to the takeout window, both columns are up.
Yeah,
And the young lady at the window, who was a granddaughter,
yeah.
said, well, we read it to our grandfather and we couldn't convince him that was the same article, so he put both of them up. I love that. And they're still up, you know.
But it gave you, actually, it gave you folks, you and your wife, an opportunity to get around the state, to experience all these inns and restaurants. And
Well, one of the best things is we had quite a crowd that would follow us, particularly to the restaurants, and that helped them, you know, because once you find these restaurants, you're going to go back.
yeah, I think it was, great exposure
Yeah.
for them. Now you were executive director of Sportsman Alliance of Maine for 18 years, and I didn't have a chance to do a lot of research on accomplishments and some of the things you did there. But after 18 years, I'm sure you were involved in a lot of environmental policy.
Well, I joined SAM in 1978. I was president in 1981 and 2. And then in 91, I had my own business and they were struggling. So they hired me as a consultant and I got things squared away. And I liked it, so I stayed 18 years.
Yeah,
And 90% of our members every year in our survey would say they belong to SAM because I was at the legislature. So
okay.
I spent a lot of time there. And we could do a whole show on that. I mean, that was the good old days, back when people really knew each other and worked together. It's not the case today.
No, unfortunately. So you were there, and you were really a lobbyist then for.
I was a lobbyist, and I would typically propose 25 or 30 bills every year. A lot of them just to provoke the Fish and Wildlife Department to do something.
Yeah.
And we had great success. We really did. One of my proudest bills was to protect our native brook trout in about 500 lakes and ponds now. We have all the native brook trout in lakes and ponds left in this whole country. That's a very important resource. And I'm really pleased the new commissioner, Judy Camuso, is moving ahead to expand that to tributaries and other waters. And so I think they're really on the right track now.
You've had a real passion over the years for brook trout and preserving brook trout.
Well, you know, we bought a camp on Sourdunk Lake, which is on the edge of Baxter Park. And it's fly fishing only. So I had to learn to fly fish, as did my kids. Now, 2 years ago, my 3-year-old granddaughter caught her first trout up there. And I have pictures of our kids on the lawn surrounded by moose, surrounded by deer. I mean, it's a very special, it's an old sporting camp that they turned into a condominium. So we each own our camp in the land in common, but our backyard is Baxter Park.
Oh, beautiful.
We climbed every mountain, and it's a very special place.
Now you have 3 children and
Yes.
you got grandchildren.
4 grandchildren.
4 grandchildren. Have they all developed your passion for the outdoors?
Well, no, and I'll tell you, the way things have changed for kids, my 15-year-old grandson plays on 3 soccer teams. He plays year-round. They have an indoor soccer arena down there, and he wants to be a professional soccer player.
Wow.
So
high
he
aspirations.
doesn't even fish anymore. Now the 12-year-old loves to fish, and now he wants to hunt. And I can't hunt anymore, but we're lining him up with somebody that will get him out there eventually. The 2 little girls are 5 and 2, so it's hard to say. They live in Massachusetts, but the 5-year-old is already fishing when she gets to camp.
Oh, good. Good. Now 2 of the 3 kids live in your
No.
grandchildren live in
Oh.
Massachusetts, right?
Yes, well, Our son and daughter-in-law and two granddaughters live in West Bridgewater, Mass.
Okay, yeah.
Our youngest daughter, Hillary, lives in Washington, D.C.
Okay, yeah.
Now, I don't know how we raised a city girl, but she loves D.C. She really does.
Yeah.
And then our oldest daughter lives in Union with her husband and our grandsons.
Now, is the one that lives in D.C. in politics at all?
No, she actually graduated from Colgate, went there to work for an environmental group, couldn't make enough to live there. Started serving in a restaurant, made a fortune, and now she's in charge of, has been for 6 years, all their events.
Okay, yeah.
And she is incredibly busy. I mean, she has a lot of everything from weddings to congressional fundraisers.
Yeah.
And she loves it. I mean, our kids last weekend planned an annual getaway. We went to the Samoset in Rockport.
Nice.
The manager, Connie Russell, really helped us a lot. And we just had a special weekend. And there's an ALS charitable group in Massachusetts that paid $2,000 of our costs.
Oh,
They paid
nice.
for a vacation for you.
Nice, because Samoset isn't cheap.
No, but I mean, Connie gave us a really good deal.
Oh, good.
And it's such a spectacular place with the pool.
Oh, yes.
The
Yeah.
kids just had a great time. And their food, their restaurant's good too. So.
Yeah. Well, you're certainly enjoying your time with family.
Well, this is why I've had 3 friends the last year, Chris, drop dead of heart attacks.
Mm.
One was only 58 years old. So despite my illness, I feel lucky that I do have this time. A lot of friends come to visit. Even the governor came, brought lunch one day, you know.
Yeah, I have heard. Yeah, no, and once again, I did a little reading before we came out of the show, and you've had all sorts of, I guess you'd say, dignitaries
Well,
come visit you.
when Janet brought lunch from the Blaine house and we were eating, I said, Janet, I feel like I'm getting a tax refund here.
Yeah.
She loved that. But Judy Camuso, who I advocated for as Fish and Wildlife Commissioner,
Yes.
Janet hired her, and Judy comes out quite often, and we talk about her initiatives and my idea. Every time she comes, I have a long list, of course, to
Yeah.
talk to her about.
Now you can't get down to the legislature anymore, can you? But you give your ideas and.
Well, I've written testimony that my friends Ed Pino or James Cody will read for me.
Yeah.
But I've only focused this session on Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah.
And Judy's done a great job working with them too, so hasn't really been any controversies.
Good.
But I write about them once in a while in my outdoor news, you know.
Yeah, I saw, I believe it was in your blog, a picture of Judy and somebody else having shot a turkey.
Now, see,
Yeah.
I took her deer hunting 2 years ago, and I didn't think she wanted to shoot a deer. We mostly walked around talking for 2 days, but she was excited about getting a turkey, and that was her second day out. And I told her she was spoiled. The guy gave her a beautiful little tent and with comfortable chairs, but she got her turkey, and it made quite a story. It did.
Yeah, that was a nice. She's very proud in that
She
picture
was.
showing that. And,
She told me what picture I could use.
and you probably reminded her it's good conservation to go out and thin the herd every once in a while.
See, I've actually, Shenabel put in a bill for me to expand the bag limit, eliminate the fee and the tagging requirement. And Judy agreed to eliminate the fee in the fall and the permit and really expand the bag limit. Probably won't happen till next year, but the committee accepted that and carried my bill forward to next year to just make sure that they do it. But, I mean, people are not happy about turkeys. They're every place, you know.
Well, you know, it's funny. What was it when were they reintroduced into the state?
Yes, and they thought they'd only live on the southern coast.
Yeah.
Now they're in the Aroostook County.
They're everywhere.
They are, and
They're much hardier than people gave them credit for.
you know, in the fall, there's only 5,000 people that hunt. And I have had some friends quit hunting in the spring because you're sitting in the bushes and you're covered in deer ticks. It's awful. And so what my goal was, if you got a hunting license and you see 25 turkeys on your lawn, go shoot one, you know, who cares, really?
Speaking of ticks, I mean, obviously that has become a huge issue,
It's
and
unbelievable.
not only for us as humans, but also for the animals. And you just hear these stories of moose dying because of being infected with ticks, and
The moose thing has been a disaster,
yeah.
really has. And, well, you know people with Lyme disease. That's what happened. I had that TV talk show with Harry Vanderwijk for 14 years, and we had to stop because he got Lyme disease.
Yeah.
But back then, it took him 2 years to figure out what was wrong with him. And it took 8 years to get off his medication.
Wow.
I mean, it was devastating.
Yeah.
It really was.
Well, our producer of our show, and I don't think she'd mind me saying this, Katie Willett,
Yes.
also had that. And it
Yes.
took, I think she was living in New Hampshire, southern New Hampshire at the time. She contracted and just felt just a malaise and pain
Yes.
in her joints and everything. And they had no idea. And it took a long time to diagnose it. And unfortunately now it's had residual effects over the years.
And of course, a lot of doctors back then didn't have any experience with it. There's other things you can catch from deer ticks. One is Powhatan disease. We had a one of our favorite artists lived in Owl's Head. We got to know her because her grandchildren went to school here. Linda taught school, and she got bit by a tick and died a couple weeks later of Powhatan disease.
I've never heard of that.
She was in the hospital 2 weeks and died.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's changed the outdoors dramatically.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned these in some of your articles. Is this all climate change going on that has
Well,
changed?
that's my guess. I don't
Yeah.
know how they got here or what was involved, but well, you've seen a lot of changes because of climate.
Yeah,
New critters coming, existing wildlife diminished.
yeah.
You know, it's all changing. It really
And some is good and some is bad. I don't know where we are in the balance here as to.
Well, look at the crazy weather we've had.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's just been bizarre.
yeah. I mean, here in Maine, it's hard to, you know. I think climate change is better wording than global warming because I'm really not quite sure. We've experienced now 2 winters here in Maine that have hardly justify the global warming position.
Well,
but I don't know.
I've written, and I always conclude the ocean is where it's hurt the most.
Yeah,
The commercial fisheries devastated, and they're really worried about things like lobsters, and but there's a lot of fish and well, even clams. Things have really diminished.
they said the Gulf of Maine has warmed up faster than any body of water in the Atlantic, right?
Yeah,
Or something
actually
like
in
that.
the world.
In the world.
Yeah.
And unbelievable. So, you know, there's a real issue with lobsters maybe going away.
Well,
or
and look at all the aquaculture facilities.
Yeah,
I don't know what kind of danger they're in, but that's a really good growing industry. But they depend on the ocean and colder temperatures, you know.
but it's scary to me, all the changes that have happened. And you've seen, you know, in the fisheries, hunting, everything, in all the years that you've been involved, there's been some pretty dramatic changes.
Well, what's bizarre is that people still deny it.
Yeah.
How could you do that? I mean, and now, you know, in the old days, brook trout was our number one fish, and today, twice as many bass are caught than brook trout. And we've got northern pike that were illegally introduced all over the place. My lawn pond now, 10 minutes from here, has 9 invasive species in there. Used to be one of the best salmon waters, and the salmon are gone. You know?
And once again, I think this is in the blog or something like that. But you were talking about the pike, and is it Washington State or someplace where they pay you $10 to kill them?
To get the pike out of the
Yeah.
water. Now, we never did anything to react to the pike. And I think that was a big mistake. And I understand it's almost impossible to get them all out, but you could diminish their population quite a bit. But today, you can't really because people come to Maine to catch pike. You know?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. And what? Maybe out in the Midwest, isn't that a big thing? We're catching pike
It is.
and but boy, they are an aggressive.
Well, I got to
Fish.
tell you, I feel lucky in my career. I had a lot of free fishing trips up to Quebec, all over Quebec, really. All over Montana. I had a friend out there that was a guide, so I would sign up for every convention in Montana and stay to fish. And I had 3 amazing trips to Alaska. 2 with a friend who had a travel business specializing in sporting camps. Oh, we visited every camp. It was unbelievable. And then the 3rd trip I took Linda, and We went to Rainbow River Lodge, and they would fly us out each day to a river to catch big rainbow trout or silver salmon. And I have a picture of Linda on the salmon river. She has just cast from the back, and 10 yards away a giant bear is looking at her. And the river was full of bears, and they were catching fish.
Are these black bears or grizzly bears?
Grizzlies.
Grizzly bears.
Grizzly
Ooh.
bear.
Yeah.
And they could catch fish. We had guides with guns and everything, but it took a little getting used to fishing. And there's a bear, and there's a bear, you know.
But I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but as long as the bear has enough stuff to feed on
That's what
there,
they
they're
said.
not that interested in you.
No, and we were told, just don't play your fish. Don't get the interest of a bear up. Just get it in, let it go.
Yeah.
But
I'd be a little concerned personally with grizzlies because you do hear
Well,
those mauling stories.
I tell everybody to go to Alaska because there's no place like it. Even if you don't fish, it's an amazing state.
Did you go to Denali?
Oh yeah, well, the first week with Linda, we toured the whole state. We spent 3 days up at Denali.
Yeah.
That was funny because in Denali, one day we saw a bear way off on the hills. We were all excited. We didn't realize that next week they'd be right there, you know,
Yeah.
all around us. But Denali, that is an amazing place too.
Oh, I've heard about it. That's on my bucket list. I hope
There you
I
go.
hope to get there at some point.
Well, when you're there, do a show for us.
I should. You know, well, if I can bring John along.
Yeah.
We had back when my wife and I were celebrating our 25th anniversary, we were talking about either going to Alaska or Hawaii.
Yeah.
And we were going back and forth on that. And finally, my wife's sister weighed in and she said, I lived in Alaska. It was cold. Go where it's warm. And so we ended up going to Hawaii, but
Yeah.
still, Alaska's on the bucket list
Well,
to go.
We've been to Hawaii twice. It's a special place.
That's a special place
We
too.
loved Hawaii.
Absolutely.
But if you go in the summer to Alaska, it's not cold, and there's 17 or 18 hours of daylight.
That's right. That's right.
And I fished all 17 or 18 hours, you know. It was,
Some of the biggest vegetables in the world get grown in Alaska, right? You
Oh.
see these pictures of
and
monstrous pumpkins and
well,
squash.
you know, their moose are much bigger than ours.
have
They
to
have
be.
huge moose.
Yeah.
And we saw caribou and everything, you know.
So did you hunt while you were up there?
I've never hunted in Alaska, no. You know, I've never hunted. Well, I went to North Dakota several times hunting pheasants
Yeah.
with some friends. That was fun, but other than that, I just hunted in Maine.
What's your favorite place of all the places you've been?
We're sitting in it.
Oh, okay.
Well, we love this house. We love Mount Vernon. We love Maine.
Yeah.
You know, we love our camp. We love Lubec. And we always enjoyed traveling, whether it was to Italy or Alaska or wherever. Our favorite national park now is Big Bend National Park in southwest Texas. It's on the
Okay.
Rio Grande. It's high mountain, Arctic desert, and there's this little western town, Terlingua, where a lot of the people live outdoors. And we rented a house, one room, everything was inside, but outside they had a bed, a kitchen, a shower, because they live outdoors.
Okay.
I couldn't get Linda to sleep outside in the bed because there were critters under it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Terlingua is a remarkable place, and we love that whole area. So we've sent a lot of people to there.
Oh, nice.
Great birding place too.
Yeah. You've, you've had such a varied career, but you're also kind of a man of the community too. I mean, you've been very involved in Mount Vernon,
Yeah.
and you were involved fairly recently in a big fundraising effort
For our
for
library.
the library. Yeah, you want to describe that a little bit?
Well, I started out, I got elected to the Winthrop Town Council the year they abolished town meeting. And I served 5 years, and I was a county commissioner. And once I moved to Mount Vernon, I've been everything from selectman to planning board.
Yeah.
But my favorite job is for 38 years I've been a library trustee.
Okay.
And 2 years ago I raised $330,000 to build a 2-story addition to our little library. We just finished it a couple weeks ago. And people were astonished, but it wasn't hard to raise the money. There's a lot of support for libraries. And Steve and Tabitha King gave us $50,000, and My friend Bob Fuller from Wayne had a family foundation. They gave us $50,000. 80% of our individual donors were our summer people. They love the library. So I would see them when the library is closed, crammed in their cars using our Wi-Fi. So we built them this beautiful screened-in porch where they can sit in the summer and get on their computers. And we got a big meeting space that lots of people are still using now. And I think it's got to be the most spectacular rural library in the state now. It's really impressive. We even have an elevator.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Well, they won't let you do a second story anymore without an elevator.
Skowhegan recently, I don't know whether they're complete yet or not, but they've done a heck of a lot to modernize their library, and they had added an elevator to it, and I believe they had some money from Stephen Tabitha King's
I would imagine.
foundation as well. Interesting story. You told me you went to school with Stephen King.
I sat next to Steve in the creative writing course.
Yes.
And we became friends with that professor throughout the rest of his life. And so I got to know Steve a little bit, and I was president of the Young Republicans, and he was in the SDS, which was kind of a radical group, and I used to go once in a while to their meetings and harass them. And he still remembers this, you know. But I've kept in touch with him over the years. And the first 3 books he published, he sent me copies with nice autographs, and I mean, what an amazing success it's been.
Unbelievable.
It's just astonishing.
Unbelievable.
At my book talks, I would say, I would tell them this Steve King story and say, and we both became writers, and we've sold over 300 million books. I sold about 5,000, and Steve sold the rest, but yeah.
That's right. You've had
I published 4 books.
4 books.
The first one is A Life Lived Outdoors, which was about growing up in Maine and some hunting and fishing stories. The second one was a travel book that Linda and I did. The third one, Down East, asked me to write a book about Maine sporting camps. And then my last one was a book of hunting and fishing stories that North Country Press published.
Okay.
I'll tell you, the sporting camp situation is really tough. They're only seasonal. They've lost so many hunters and anglers. They're all struggling. And I used Clayburg Mountain Lodge in east of Kingfield, the Drummonds.
Yes, I've been there, actually.
Oh, isn't
yes.
that a fabulous
Yeah, it is.
place? And the
It
Drummonds
is.
are amazing.
They are.
Well, when they opened, deer hunting was their most profitable business. Now it's their least profitable. They haven't shot a deer in 5 years.
No kidding.
But their most profitable is cross-country skiing. So if the camps are open in the winter, serving snowmobilers and skiers, they're doing a lot better. If they're only open for hunting and fishing, 12 of the 14 in Washington County are for sale.
Oh my.
I mean, nobody in his right mind buys a sporting camp today. It's really sad.
Isn't that sad? That used to be such a huge part of the Maine economy.
Well, and it's a unique and fabulous experience. I encourage everybody to visit a sporting camp this summer, you know. Everything from the food to the habitat is spectacular.
My wife and I used to go up to Spencer Pond
Oh,
camps,
sure.
and absolutely beautiful.
Exactly.
We do some trout fishing there. Unfortunately, somebody introduced yellow perch into the
See? Yeah.
lake, and you'd have to go up to the I forget whether it was North End or whatever, the pond where the brook comes in, and you get the cold water, and then you could get
Get
some brook trout there, and it was absolutely beautiful camps there. And
Well, the people are so nice.
yes.
It's a unique experience. If you haven't gone, go to a sporting camp.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you write articles every week, I guess, for the KJ and
Yeah.
Morning Sentinel. And you've been, whether it be environmental issues or political issues, and you seem to alternate among those
Well, I
things.
tell you, I look back at some of the early columns 28 years ago, and they're embarrassing. I mean, I was a young guy who knew everything, lecturing people, and as time went on, I figured out I don't know everything. And since I've been diagnosed a couple years ago with ALS, I focus more on Maine stories than politics. And people do like those a lot better. And even today, politics has gotten so ugly that I'll occasionally write about an issue at the legislature, but it's mostly about Maine. I just wrote one about what it takes to be a real Mainer.
Yeah.
That'll be in a couple of weeks, and that was fun.
But you're not afraid to take a position on any of the major events going on in the state.
No.
And you certainly have taken a position on the CMP line.
You know, it's kind of funny because I'm very close to Janet.
And she's the other side of
And
this.
people
Yeah.
think, oh, she must hate you now. No, you can disagree with people and still be friends, you know. I think that it makes no sense at all for me. You know, they already have approved of a way to get through Vermont
Yeah.
under the ground and underwater that is a way better solution. And I couldn't believe it when the PUC approved it, but you know, the EPA just raised a whole bunch of questions.
Yeah, I think I
And
saw that.
So I'm hoping that's going to turn things around.
Well, what do you think that's going to do for the environment? You pointed out a number
Well,
of
it's
things
a
in the.
disaster, but you know Western Maine, it's a special place. And do you want to see all these big towers going up over the mountains and through all your best habitats, and then, you know, they're going to have to spray all that area, keep the stuff down. It's going to change things for people dramatically.
What's that going to do to our tourism up there?
Well, they think it will reduce it substantially because people go up to, because this is a special undeveloped place, you know.
Trout fishing, deer, it's all going to have a.
The Fish and Wildlife Department raised a lot of concerns about it, and that was kind of just set aside.
Yeah.
But it was everything from habitat for deer to, they're gonna be close to a lot of brooks and streams.
Yeah, and it's. Do you think was there a bill introduced that they have to look at?
Well, there's a couple bills going through right now, but I'm not sure if Janet will sign them. But one of them would require a study between now and August of whether it really impacts climate change.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions about that, but that's one of the things the EPA raised too. They haven't proven that there's really any addressing climate change in that proposal. But I just think they already got approved to go through Vermont. We'll go through Vermont.
Why did that
It's more
change?
expensive
Oh, okay.
because they're making them bury the line.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's also much better for the environment. And they're still going to make hundreds of millions of dollars, you know. So do it, you know.
You took a position on ranked choice voting too. I noticed.
Well, the people who first submitted it before they did, they were all Democrats. They wanted a Republican. So they asked me, and I didn't sign up right away. I looked at other places, and the thing I liked the best was that the people elected are liked by at least half the people. And so I signed up, and we submitted it. And, you know, for me, the best thing that happened so far is we elected Jared Golden. Jared's dad and I grew up together, and I've known him his whole life. He's outstanding, and I'm very proud of him. And ranked choice elected him, so I think it was all worth it. I would love to see it for governor, so that every governor, at least half the people like you, you know, or support you. I think that's a great concept.
Do we need to do? Is it a constitution change for that?
Yes, for governor.
That's involved.
And so I don't see the Republicans ever supporting it to the legislature, so we can't get in.
Now, the other thing on position you took on referendums, of course, now basically if somebody wants to introduce a referendum, then you walk around the streets of Portland and gather signatures, and you get enough, and it gets introduced. But is that truly representative of the rest of the state? And you took a position on that.
Yes, I've supported a couple proposals that would require you to get out around the state, talk to people about your proposal, get signatures all over Maine, not just around Portland. And I think that would be very positive for our state. You know, a few years ago I spoke to the Portland Rotary, and the first thing I said was, have any of you ever been to Maine? They hooted and howled, you know, but my talk was about rural Maine, and that's north of Augusta.
Yeah.
You know, Portland is a whole different place.
Oh, no question.
And our rural towns are all in trouble. I wrote a column that included Jackman a month ago, and I mean, they have just 37 kids in their high school. Now, that's not going to continue.
It's
They lost their overnight medical care.
That is right.
Now, that is not going to bring people to your town. You know, and all over, they're losing their schools, they're losing their medical care. Callis closed their birthing center. So now you have to drive 2 hours to Bangor to have your baby. And I suggested along the road, we'd have the picture of the babies where they were born on their way to Bangor, you know.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna attract young people to a town when you gotta drive 2 hours to have your baby.
It's
Yeah.
scary right now, George. I'm on a hospital board over in Skowhegan,
Oh.
and you get to privy of some knowledge of the finances of some of the hospitals around the state of Maine, and other than the big players, a lot of them are virtually hand to mouth, and it's pretty scary as to what's going to
There
happen
was
in the
actually a
future.
story in the paper today about that, and how a lot of them never get their full cost paid
That's right.
because of Medicaid, Medicare, and all this, insurance companies, and in rural Maine, I don't know where
Yeah.
we're gonna be.
I think Steve Michaud from the Hospital Association wrote
That
an
was,
article on that, and he, basically said, because people complain about rates as they should, I guess, but he said, well, look, basically about half, 2/3 of our base is either Medicare, Medicaid, or basically stuff we have to write off. Okay,
exactly.
and we do not get compensated well for any of those things,
You
particularly
know,
the write-offs.
I have Medicare and Barnes Point Generations Advantage, which is great insurance.
Good company, yeah.
But every month I get a report, and you'll see what the medical communities charge me and what they pay,
Yes.
and it's just a fraction what they pay.
Yes. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So if you don't have insurance, you get stuck with this really high bill.
Yeah.
But that's more representative for cost than what they're getting from my insurance, you know.
I think they said with hospitals, if you average them all out around the state, and these, of course, including the bigger, more profitable players, it was like a 1% profit margin for hospitals. So
Well,
it's pretty scary. It's
You know,
pretty tight.
Even if as I work with other people who have ALS, because I've been so public, I hear from a lot soon after they're diagnosed. And I get them linked up with the ALS Association and other ways. There is a lot of help for us out there. But I feel very lucky because my brother Gordon was head of the Maine Medical Association.
That's right. Yeah.
And he picked my neurologist because she had a lot of ALS experience, Stephanie Lash in Rockport, and he got me an appointment in a week. And I found out typically it takes 3 or 4 months to get an appointment with her.
Mm.
Now, if you think you've got ALS, you don't want to wait 4 months to get in to see somebody. I can't even imagine it. Dr. Lash has been phenomenal. And as you probably know, Janet picked Gordon now, he's heading that opioid
That's right. Yeah.
project. He's working so hard.
That's right.
And I mean, that's another relatively new, horrible problem in Maine.
Oh, no
It's
question.
just incredible.
No question.
I don't know.
Tell us a little bit about ALS. Obviously,
Okay.
you've been dealing with that for the last few years, and so
It's a tough illness.
how did you know
because
you had it, or what were the
Well,
early symptoms?
my muscles started pulsing all the time. So that's when I went to Dr. Lash, and she took tests and decided I had ALS and sent me to the Lee Clinic, more tests, same conclusion. And one of the frustrating things is not that many people have it at one time. I think right now in Maine there's about 60 or 70 of us. So there's been very little research.
Mm-hmm.
One of my heroes, Noel Labasser in Augusta, has been diagnosed, and he's gone all over the country raising money. He's participating in research, and Noel's just been amazing. And the other frustrating thing is you don't know what's going to happen when.
Mm.
I mean, I've had it a couple of years. My hands have lost most of their strength. In the last 2 months, I've ended up in a wheelchair because I was falling with a walker. And so right now, our electric chair, we got no vehicle it fits in.
Yeah.
So I have to buy a fairly expensive vehicle if I'm going to travel in an electric chair. Right now, I can still travel in the smaller one
Okay.
because I can stand up and get into the car.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then the other thing is, I feel really lucky. All our neighbors and friends, I have a long list of people, like Linda's shopping right now in Augusta. I can call anybody on that list. If they're there, they'll come help me
Nice.
with whatever I need. Yeah, like we had people show up to help Linda shovel, and I've told ALS patients to reach out to your friends and neighbors because they want to help you. A lot of the people feel pretty private about it, but it's really not even about you. They want to do something for you.
You've had, you've had community really has reached out to you,
Yes.
helping you out. I guess they helped with this walkway out in front of your house, right?
Yeah, well, we had an accessible shower
Yeah.
installed, and a friend from church and another worker. Well, they spent almost 2 weeks in our bathroom, never charged us for their labor.
That's amazing. That's nice.
And these things have been happening. It's like our weekend, the kids playing a weekend at the Samoset last weekend with our children and grandchildren. My brother, his wife, my sister came for dinner, and Connie Russell, the manager, gave us a great deal. I mean, it was remarkable because that's an expensive place. And,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and then the association in Massachusetts paid $2,000 of the cost. They help you with a vacation. One of the guys in my care group, we meet once a month. He's been in his wheelchair 10 years, and last year, this association in Massachusetts, it's called the ALS Charitable Family Foundation. They paid for him to go on a bear hunt with a guide, and he shot a bear.
Oh my goodness.
He was so excited, out of his wheelchair, you know. So there is a lot of groups, so I've been connecting people to those as well. And there's one kind, bulbar, where you lose your voice right off.
Okay.
And I just started helping a fellow with that. And just this week I heard from a lady in Massachusetts whose dad lives in Portland, and he was just diagnosed with ALS. So I started helping them this week. And
Is there any genetic composition to this?
there is. There's a fellow in my care group. His dad and his uncle and his grandfather all had it.
Really? Okay.
So there's a gene. It kind of worried his wife, but they tested their kids and grandkids, and apparently nobody had that.
Thank goodness.
So they were very lucky. But it can run, but there's 3 or 4 different kinds. So, and like I said, you don't know what's going to happen next.
Anyone in your family ever had it?
No,
No?
not as far back as I could see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Must have been the day you got the diagnosis. It must have been pretty devastating, I would think.
well, honestly, I have determined to make the most out of every day. You know, right from that day, I haven't been really depressed or.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is because I've had these friends just drop dead of a heart attack. One of them was the most vigorous, healthy guy in my whole class, and he dropped dead skiing down Sugarloaf
Okay.
of a heart attack.
Oh.
And one was a great fellow here in Mount Vernon. He was only 58. He was riding his bicycle and had a heart attack, fell into the bushes. So, despite all the frustrations, I do feel lucky that I can still do TV shows.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah, at least you have a time to prepare yourself for these
Well-
things. And what's involved with all the preparation here,
Well-
George, for the inevitable situation down the road?
Alpha One sent an architect out, again for free, who went through everything, and the only thing we had to do was build that new walkway, because
Mhm.
these other doors have stairs, and build the accessible shower. All our doors are wide enough for my chair, and then another fellow, a friend, built some wooden ramps so you can go up and over things, and so we were lucky. We didn't have to make too many changes to the house. And there's a lot of devices, like on the bed I have a handle I can pull myself up, and so there's a lot of things you can get that help you.
Okay. But you have to make, organize your affairs and the finances and,
Well,
All
there's
those
another
things,
thing. You
too.
dropped dead of a heart attack. Was everything in place?
yeah.
I thought so, but daughter Rebecca got us a great elder attorney, Jane Skelton in Bangor. And we had to do a lot of things to change things. Like I switched everything to Linda's name, utilities, credit cards. And
Yeah.
there was a lot, and now we have a end of life. We have our wills in order. And,
Yeah.
I was surprised how much we actually had to do.
Mm.
And again, that's another good thing that I had time to do all that.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
And,
we also have great therapists, occupational and physical, from Maine General, and they've been a great help to me in terms of. I have to do a lot of exercises to keep my muscles going as long as I can. So there's help out there.
good. Yeah, that's very good. Now, I think I read somewhere that, there's an average of 3 to 5 year lifespan with this, but some live as much as 20 years.
Yes.
But you never know, and it takes a different course with different people.
Some people die in a year.
Yeah.
They do. So you never know. But it's like this guy that shot the bear, and he's been in his wheelchair 10 years.
Yeah.
He's pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
One thing, when we get together once a month, the ALS Association sponsors this, and I always learn from all the other people. So we share our experiences, and it's really very helpful.
Now, there's fundraising walks each year in Bangor and Portland, and you're very involved in those. I understand.
I kind of focus on Bangor. It's smaller. My sister is the chair of it. Then my friend Rusty Atwood stepped up to chair the Portland one. That's much bigger, and I do go, but I focus on building a team for the walk in Bangor. In fact, last year Angus King came, and he didn't want to speak, but they convinced him to introduce me. And this year I've invited Jared Golden and the governor, and I wouldn't be surprised if they come. And I've been raising money for the Bangor walk. My favorite story is Linda and I loved Gagan's Pub.
Oh, yes. Yeah, good place.
So their boneless chicken wings are unbelievable. So we got them to donate those for the lunch at the walk, but we didn't get enough. They ran out. So this year they're going to send a lot more.
Yeah.
All free, no charge. And my favorite story of the Gagans, my favorite beer is the Smiling Irish Bastard. And it's named for their cousin. I love that. But the Gagans are wonderful people, very generous in what they do for the community.
Each year, Skowhegan has an event with featuring microbrews from around the state.
Oh, I know.
They shut off the main street, and I think they're going in their 4th year this year, and it's ended up being a fabulous event that attracts people from all over the Northeast, really, to it, and it's been a great fundraiser for Main Street Skowhegan, and you can sample what, I don't know, 40 or 50 different beers there, and it's really something. I understand you really like microbrews.
When about a month ago I wrote a column, the KJ Central column, and I probably heard from more people on that than anything I've ever heard.
Well, there are a lot of people with a passion for that.
My favorite story is a fellow named Gale. He was a nuclear physicist, worked all over the world. He was still in his 30s and got burned out. So for some reason he came to me, and he went to Bar Harbor and he didn't like it. And the bartender put a map up and said, "Gale, you need to go to Lubec." He went to Lubec. He loved it. He bought the breakfast place. He married a local girl, and he opened a brewery. Eventually he sold the breakfast place because his brewery is amazing. Thursday through Sunday he has live music and food, and he was the only place in Lubec that stayed open all winter. And Gail, and he has just settled into Lubec and loves it. But one of the other things I love about microbreweries, 3 other brewers came and helped him get started.
Nice,
They really work together.
nice. That is such a thriving industry around the state.
Well,
and-
now we got farmers growing the hops.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're in the central area for a lot of that stuff. We have Maine Grains
I
and
know.
Skowhegan that does that. We have 2 microbrews, Bigelow Brewing and Oak Pond Brewing, right in the Skowhegan area.
We did a
So,
couple of travel columns about their restaurant,
Yeah.
and she's done an awesome job, you know.
Yes, she has, very much so. Well, George, you know, I think before we went on the air, we talked about the fact that you've got enough materials to encompass at least 5 shows.
Yeah, oh,
And
I
I'm-
think way more than that.
Yeah, I'm sure of that now. So who knows? We may end up be coming back here and
I think I could
interviewing
be a
again.
show every week, Chris, really.
Well, good. That would decrease the planning that we have to do. So that would be very nice. And
Well,
we
I-
were absolutely thrilled that you agreed
Oh,
to
I-
allow us into your house to
Well,
do
thank
this.
you for coming. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, and this is fun. And I can see why you love this spot as much as you do. It's just
Yeah.
a very, very picturesque location.
Well, I've been going up and down the road in my electric chair, and
Yeah.
it's just great.
Oh, it's a fabulous spot. Well, once again, George, I'd like to thank you very much
Well, thank you,
this
Chris.
morning, and to the audience, now you know.
Thank you.